I talked to my doctor today over the phone, was able to check in with him. This is my doctor in Denver, and it was really helpful. We talked about kind of the current situation with my treatment, and he's been talking to my other doctor in Colorado Springs, and he said something to the fact of like, what did you gather when you talked to your doctor in the Springs? And he was like, I think he seemed kind of cautious or skeptical about my case, and I told him, I was like, I think that's a fair assessment. He started laughing. And I was like, well, I think he's still being very cautious with me because things have been so confusing with my case, and doesn't seem like I'm a normal case. It's hard to know that, like when you're talking to your doctors of like, is this normal? Is this not normal? Um, and so my doctor from Denver was like, he always treats his patients kind of like, if it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, then it probably is a duck. And so, in kind of working with me, everything has led us to thinking that I have neuroendocrine tumors, even though there hasn't been a full, like, not everything has completely pointed in that direction, but everything up till now has finally kind of pinpointed that. And so for my doctor in Denver, he's like, okay, well, the next step is always Lanreotide is the next step. Essentially saying like that he feels like every type of treatment should have its day in court. So we're trying this, and in another 7 weeks, I'm going to have a CT scan, September 30th or October 1st, probably. So if the CT scan comes back and the tumors have not grown, he actually used the word, we are golden, like we can celebrate because like we're in such a good position to be able to treat my type of cancer with lanreotide or PRRT or next steps. So to actually hear him say that, I was just like, oh, okay, like this is a really big deal. He also was like, how are you doing? And I was like, I feel so good. Like people keep asking me how I'm doing, and I'm like, I feel like a somewhat normal human being. Like I'm able to get up every day and walk for an hour and exercise and eat more normal and not be in, extreme fatigue and uh, pain all the time going through the chemo. So I feel like so much better and so much more alive. And he even made a comment of like, yeah, like you're not a normal patient. Like I look at you and you're like, from the last time I talked to you, you look like a completely different person. So that was really like encouraging to me to feel like, okay, it's not just me. Like, and even some of the results that he had seen, he's like, I've never seen anything like that. So it just makes me feel like, okay, I'm not necessarily normal when it comes to some of these things that are happening. And so I'm thankful, I'm grateful, I'm just happy to be here because this last year has been just so up and down. Sorry, my cuckoo clock's going off. Hello. But I'm so thankful and grateful just to be at this spot in my treatment, to hopefully be able to move forward. And it was funny. I got a phone call. Anthony was on the call with me, meeting with the doctor, and after everything, he was like, "Oh man, I'm already like having scan anxiety about thinking about, you know, waiting to find out where things are going to be." And I did ask my doctor, I was like, well, if it is a mixture of the types of cancer, if it is some aggressive, some non-aggressive, like what is that going to look like on the scan? And he said, I would, if it's if it's a mixture of the two, like my other doctor thinks and is cautious about and nervous about and skeptical about, then he's like, we'll get on the scan and the tumors will probably have grown like a centimeter. And if that's the case, then we can go back to chemo and we can, look at other treatments and stuff. But if it hasn't grown, then we're pretty golden. So, but, automatically there's like this anxiety about the scans and what, the results will change our lives. It'll change the direction that we take. And so, sure, there's some anxiety there. I think I was telling Anthony is like, when we first started getting these scans and tests, like it was so hard because you're so anxious to know what the results are. For me, we would get results like within a couple hours in my portal. And so I would look right away, which you probably shouldn't. You should probably have it read by a doctor, not like Chat GPT. But of course, as a newbie, I would automatically put it in Chat GPT and think I know exactly what it meant and let it impact my emotions, which would go up and down, and then meet with my doctors. And then it was sometimes aligned, but not usually. There was a lot of things that I didn't understand by just, looking at my results. And so that would impact my emotions and my mental health so much. Anthony and I got to a point, like probably months later, where we would have this routine of we would go get the scan, and then later that day we would go on a date so that we wouldn't have to think about it. And then that would help to just take our minds off of the scan information and then before it kind of like come together to read the results, and also not to like maybe jump to conclusions. We would try to wait until we talked to the doctors before we would share too broadly with people, because it would impact everybody else too, not just our emotions. It would impact my sisters and my parents and everyone. They'd be like, well, what does that mean? And I'm like, I don't really know. So I think keeping your results a little bit, close to the chest before sharing them until you can really talk to your doctors about what everything really means, what it truly means, I think is really important. And I think Anthony and I are on different trajectories right now on SCANXIETY, because I think, before I would have such a hard time sleeping. It really impacted sleep habits and insomnia and my mental health, and it would impact your spouse, my husband differently. And so it was just really hard to kind of not be impacted by each other's emotions and how we were feeling before and after and just everything. It's a lot. So I think I've found it more helpful for me, like to not get too ahead of myself. I tend to not get anxious about the scan until like the day of, and then I have a really hard time. But I've found like a routine to like try to keep myself calm, just trying to go to bed early, trying to have some meditation time, some prayer time. Sometimes being distracted by other things is helpful. Going out on a date, going to a movie, like that kind of stuff is super helpful just to get your mind off of the scan. Almost treat yourselves, because it's like it's gonna come. The information's gonna come. I think the waiting is the hardest. So if you can distract yourself, get yourself out of your head, that's super helpful. And then the last couple scans, I just have been so expectant that it's gonna be good news. And I don't know, like, I honestly think this next scan is going to be good news either way. I think Anthony, mentioned that it's like hard to not hold on to. Oh, I think this is, I hope we're golden. But like in my mind, I'm like, things are so much more positive than they were even a month or two ago that I'm just so thankful. Like, I feel pretty at peace about whether it's going to be one or the other. Like, I just feel like it's going to be okay either way. And maybe I'll feel differently like the night before. I'm sure I'm going to have anxiety the day before, but I'll just have to, hone in on those things that I know will help me get through the anxiety and anxious energy that comes with going the day of and waiting and getting the news and processing everything. But I feel for anyone that's walking through the cancer journey, especially at the beginning, because it's so overwhelming and so scary at the beginning that trying to ground yourself and stay calm and grieve and all the things, like, it's just so overwhelming in general. So I think I would encourage anyone that's in the beginning of it, just hold on. Like, it's gonna get a little bit easier once you've gone through a couple scans, and just know that you're not alone. There's so many people out there that are walking this journey at the same time or have walked that journey. And so leaning on other people that have gone before you, that are going through it right now, it can be really helpful and make it less scary. One scripture that comes to mind is Philippians 4, 6, and 7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And I think having peace sometimes is a struggle, but I think once you are able to sit in the situations with God and with other people that love you, peace is something that really does get you through, and it is hard to explain. But I know that I've experienced it in ways that I can't even really I can't explain it. I can't explain it, but I can tell you that I have experienced it. And it's really the thing that's gotten me this far. And I can just pin that back or point that back to Jesus. So I hope that helps. I hope you have a great day. Take care.